Have you ever really stopped to think about the invisible forces that are constantly guiding your choices? I mean, everything, from the coffee you drink to the opinions you hold. We're all being shaped every single day by the people around us. This is the world of social influence, and today, we're going to pull back that curtain and look at the subtle and sometimes, not so subtle ways we all influence each other.
Think about it for a second. Have you ever been in a group, laughed at a joke you didn't quite get, or maybe just nodded along with an opinion you weren't totally sure you agreed with? And then later you think, why did I do that? You felt that pull, right? That unspoken pressure to just go along with the crowd. It's a feeling we've all had, and it gets right to the heart of how we operate as social creatures.
Okay, so let's dive right into our first big idea here, following the herd. This is all about that powerful and often totally unconscious influence that groups have over pretty much everything we do and think.
So what are we actually talking about? Well, at its core, social influence is really just any change in our behavior or beliefs that's caused by other people. It can be totally intentional, like your friend trying to convince you to see a movie they love. Or it can be completely accidental, like when you pick up a new catchphrase just from being around your coworkers. It's the basic wiring that creates social norms and, really, allows society to even function.
Now, let's zoom in on one of the heavy hitters of social influence, conformity. This is that deep-seated desire we all have to fit in, to match what we're doing to what our peers are doing. It's driven by a need for security and a fear of being the odd one out. And as one really famous experiment shows, this pull can be so strong it can actually make us question what we're seeing with our own two eyes.
So, take a look at this. This simple little test comes from a landmark study by the psychologist Solomon Asch. The task seems super easy, right? All you have to do is match the line on the left to one of the three on the right. The answer is obvious. But what if everyone around you started giving the wrong answer?
This is the exact situation Asch set up. A volunteer would walk into a room full of people they thought were other volunteers, but, surprise, they were actually actors. On certain trials, all the actors would, one by one, choose a line that was clearly, obviously, the wrong length. The real subject, sitting there toward the end of the line, had a choice to make. Do I trust what I'm seeing, or do I go with the group? The results were, frankly, staggering. They just brilliantly show how powerful conformity is. A full 75% of the participants went along with the group's wrong answer at least one time. Think about that. They could see the right answer, plain as day, but the pressure to not stand out, to not rock the boat, was so huge that they publicly said something they knew was incorrect. But, and this is really important to remember, this pressure isn't all-powerful. As one person who didn't conform put it, I've never had any feeling that there was any virtue in being like others. They stuck to their guns. It's a great reminder that even though the pull of the herd is strong, it's definitely not impossible to resist.
Okay, so we've seen how we can passively respond to group pressure. But, influence is a two-way street. What about when we're the ones actively trying to get someone else to do something? Well, it turns out we all have a kind of toolkit of tactics we use to get what we want.
In personality psychology, the scientific term for this whole thing is manipulation. Now, I know that word sounds really negative, right? But in this context, it just means the intentional tactics we use to influence other people. According to some great research by David Buss and his team, these tactics aren't necessarily good or bad. They're just the basic tools we all use in our social interactions.
So, Buss's research breaks down our influence toolkit into 6 main tactics. You've got charm, which is basically acting nice to get your way. Then there's coercion, which involves threats. The silent treatment, well, that one's pretty self-explanatory. Reason is when you use logic. Regression is, well, it's pretty much whining. And finally, there's debasement, which is where you kind of put yourself down to get sympathy. So, okay, we all have access to these 6 tactics, but which ones do we actually lean on in our day-to-day lives? The answer from the data, well, it might just surprise you. So just take a second and guess. When you want to influence your partner or a friend or a family member, what's your go-to move? Is it charm, coercion, something else entirely? What do you think is number 1? And the results are in. Contrary to what a lot of us might think, the most frequently used tactic by a long shot was reason. After that came charm. And the more aggressive or self-pitying tactics, they were used way, way less often. This suggests that in our daily lives, we're primarily trying to influence each other not with force or tricks, but with plain old logic. So understanding these forces, both the pull of conformity and the push of our own influence tactics, it's kind of like finally being able to see the invisible strings that guide our social world. So why does any of this matter for you?
Let's just wrap up what we've found here. First, that pressure to conform is a powerful, very real force that can make us doubt our own judgment. Second, we're not just passive followers. We all actively use a whole range of tactics to influence the people around us. And third, maybe most surprisingly, our most common method of influence is actually pretty positive. We try to reason with each other. The ultimate takeaway is that awareness is everything. Just knowing these patterns exist is the first huge step toward making more conscious choices about when to follow, when to lead, and how.
So as you go about your day, I'm going to leave you with this question to chew on. Whether it's in a meeting at work, a conversation with a friend, or heck, even just watching a TV commercial. Now that you know what to look for, which of these tactics of influence are you going to spot first? Because I promise you, once you start looking, you'll see them everywhere.